Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. Today we're looking at what is currently the highest clearing GR build on season. So this is the Sunwuko Tempest Rush push build. Now it's quite a fight at the top of the boards between Barb, Monk and Satyr. I'm not entirely sure which class is going to win out. It does look pretty close, but as I say, at the time of scripting this has got the #1 slot, albeit it's only by a single rift level. Now there is a mechanical thing we've got to do in the build, so it's probably a little bit more complex than a lot of the builds that I present. I am a casual player, I do like my easy builds. It's not too tough, the rotation's not too bad. I'll give you a couple of swaps at the end just so that we can make it a little bit easier, and it still hits pretty hard even with the casual version of this. Now in the background you're going to see me clear 108. I will do it with the extreme push version of the build presented first, and then we'll do 108 with the casual build. Now actually I think the casual build probably clears it slightly quicker, so again, you know, it's something debatable. You can look at the two clears and you can see. Now something funny happens at the end of the 108 clear. I couldn't stop laughing because I knew I was going to make this video and I was going to bemoan my gear, so just look out for that. But before we jump in, guys, I just want to welcome anyone who's new to the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and as always guys, a thumbs up is greatly appreciated. So looking at the gear, we're going to take 5 pieces of Sunwukos and we're going to use the raw in a cube to make it up to 6 pieces. Now the 2-piece bonus, we get 50% damage reduction while Sweeping Wind is active. That's fantastic because Sweeping Wind will be up pretty much the whole time. It will only drop off if you go for a long stretch without seeing an enemy, and you can just simply reactivate it again, so no problems, 50% damage reduction. The 4-piece we can forget, it doesn't do anything useful. 6-piece, Tempest Rush gains 1500% extra damage for every Sweeping Wind stack we have. Now because of the new Vengeful Wind, we get 13 stacks of Sweeping Wind, so this has been changed from either 6 or 7 stacks depending on the drop up to 10, so getting a good one shouldn't be too hard. Mine's not very good, but maybe you'll have better RNG than me. This will allow us to stack Sweeping Wind up to 13 times, so that's 19,500% set multiplier bonus. Tempest Rush is also going to be multiplied by the Wang Kim Lo. This will give us up to 600% damage. Now obviously guys, for a push build this is a pretty awful weapon. It's non-ancient, the rolls on it aren't particularly great, and the multiplier is a little bit low, so you know, fingers crossed I'll find the best one at some point. Now as well as giving us a multiplier on Tempest Rush, it will also activate Cyclone Strike whenever we Tempest Rush. So whenever we hit with it, we get Cyclone Strike. That's great because it means we don't have to put Cyclone Strike on the bar, so we free up an extra skill slot for that. Tempest Rush will also be buffed by the balance in the cube. This is going to give us up to 600% increased damage, and also when we hit 3 or fewer enemies we get 100% critical hit chance. Obviously amazing for single target, and the multiplier is pretty huge. We also take the Caesar's Memento braces on the character. This gives us up to 800% extra damage on Tempest Rush whenever we hit them with a blind, freeze or stun. In this particular version, the first version we're seeing, so in the version that we're currently seeing, we're going to be taking blind. This will allow us to deal mega damage at the correct time, which is going to be the cold cycle on our convention of elements. We also take the Captain Crimson set. 2-piece gives us 20% cooldown and also 20% resource cost reduction. Phenomenal for the build because we want to keep up Epiphany as much as possible. That's on a really long cooldown. We also do have other skills that we want to get off cooldown as well. Resource cost reduction is also fantastic because Tempest Rush is a very thirsty skill. Now if we look at the 3-piece, we also get extra damage based on cooldown, and we also get extra toughness based on resource cost reduction. So basically more damage, more toughness and more utility, so fantastic set for this one. You're going to have to take the belt and you're going to have to take the boots because there are no Sunwuko equivalent pieces. And because we're only taking 5 pieces of Sunwuko, we can take the Mantle of Channeling, giving us another 25% damage and also 25% damage reduction. You can interchange this with Lefebvre's Soliloquy, which is in the cube. Now because we always cast Cyclone Strike automatically when we hit with Tempest Rush, this means that we always get this 50% damage reduction. So as I say, you can swap them around. Now again, bemoaning my gear, no area damage on here for me guys, so I would be hitting an awful lot harder with that. Again, no area damage on my gloves, so I would be juicing things up quite a lot if I did have both those rolls. Now unfortunately guys, this is a damage spiky build, so we're going to deal all of our damage in the cold window if we can, because it just really does give us an absolutely huge multiplier. So you're going to want to wait until you get to physical rotation, and that's when you need to start paying attention because the next rotation is cold and you want to get in position. And finally, rounding out the gear, an Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. Whenever we hit with Tempest Rush, we get 1 second off one of our skills at random for its cooldown. Again, fantastic for Epiphany and also pretty handy for Mystic Ally and also for the blind because we might want to get it back really quickly. Legendary gem wise, we've gone for a Taeguk, so whilst we channel we get extra damage and extra armor, which is nice. Gone for a Bane of the Trapped. It's a close range build, so this is just a flat damage increase. And the last one is going to be a Bane of the Stricken. This will give us 25% extra damage against the Rift Guardian, and also we get this stacking power effect every time we hit with the Tempest Rush, so just ramp up pretty quickly. Now until you get to the point of needing the Bane of the Stricken, you will use a Bane of the Powerful. In the footage this arguably would be better for me, but I did want to test it with the Stricken in. Now this is handy for surviving because that extra 15% reduced damage against elites is actually quite important. But 20% damage throughout the whole rift once you've killed an enemy or killed an elite pack, not to be sniffed at, so it is pretty good. But between that and the Stricken, just make your decision. For gems, you're going to take all res gems in your chest and also in your trousers just to beef up your toughness, and then you're going to want to take a resource cost gem in the helm. Now if you end up with more resource cost rolls, so if let's say you get resource cost on your shoulders and gloves for example, then I probably would take this out and I'd take a diamond. But you need to play around with it and you need to manage your resource, so we'll talk about that in the skills and why I like this version of the build, but just bear in mind you can swap this out for a diamond. So Tempest Rush Flurry, this allows us to build stacks whenever we hit with Tempest Rush. We gain 90% weapon damage per stack and these cap out at 100, so at 100 stacks we're going to deal our maximum damage. So that's quite important because we're going to use Blinding Flash, Faith in the Light. Now what this will do is it will be the blind, so this will proc our Caesar's Memento. We also get a 29% damage increase for 3 seconds after we use it. So the idea is that you want to build your Tempest Rush stacks up to 100. You're then going to click blind. What that will do is it will release your Tempest Rush, and because the blind's just gone off, you're going to get your 100 stacks multiplied by the blind, multiplied by the Caesar's Memento. So that's in theory your damage window. Now it's not always going to work out like that, and that's one of the reasons why I'll talk about a couple of swaps, but that's the kind of rotation. You want to basically not let go of this at all, and you want to cast Blinding Flash when you're in cold. So as I say, physical comes up before cold, so you want to get in position to detonate your bomb at that point. Sweeping Wind in a storm, we have to activate this for Sunwuko bonuses. We're going to go for it in a storm because we want the extra resource. You hopefully will only have to activate this once or twice during the rift. Epiphany Desert Shroud, this is a 50% damage reduction. Because of the cooldown we have and the Zodiac, we do pretty much get 100% uptime on this. It's only if you run out of enemies to hit that you won't. So 50% damage reduction is handy. We also get Spirit Regen per second, which is very nice because again it's a resource thirsty build. Mantra of Salvation Agility, this is actually really nice. The passive will give us 20% increased resistances and 35% increased dodge chance. Now the way I've got my gear, this is actually giving me quite a big toughness buff. We'll talk about that with the passive when we get to it. But you can also press this and you can activate it, and that will give you another 20% all res. So that's a pretty nice toughness buff. So it's kind of like on demand, press this and you'll have a little bit more toughness. And Mystic Ally, Air Ally, I think is actually quite important. It gives us passive spirit regen, which is really nice. Whenever we activate it, we get 100 spirit. That will kind of keep us from running out, so we don't go dry. It also means that we've got enough spirit to take Mantra of Salvation. It also helps us out because it means we can take a passive that's going to use attack speed, and also it means we can take a speed pylon without having to worry about it, because in other versions of this build I've seen presented, it's advisable not to take speed pylons, and I just don't like not clicking them, so I think Mystic Ally is the way to go. Now passives wise, Beacon of Utah, 20% more cooldown, no brainer. We need the cooldown for our abilities and also it's extra damage because of the Crimsons. Now Harmony is absolutely fantastic if you don't have all res rolled on your gear. If you don't have all res on your gear and you do have secondary resists, this is phenomenal. Obviously it does feed directly into the Mantra of Salvation, so the two pair really well. Relentless Assault, 20% more damage against enemies that are blinded, so we may as well pick this up, it's another multiplier. And finally guys, Seize the Initiative, we get 30% increased attack speed for 4 seconds when hitting anything above 75% life. Now because of the Mystic Ally and the Air Ally, this means that we can take this on. This is a separate modifier on the damage, so I do take it because I do find it makes the build hit harder. Other passives for consideration are Near Death Experience, that will give you a cheat death. Obviously you definitely run this on hardcore. You can also take Exalted Soul for more spirit regen and maximum spirit, or you could take Guardian's Path for extra dodge chance. Now personally, I found the way that I've got it at the moment to be the best. but you can mess around with them if you want. The thing to bear in mind is Relentless Assault, that's probably only going to give you 1 rift level, so if you are struggling with it, you can swap this out, go down 1 rift, and then you can pick pretty much any other passive that you want. Now in terms of gameplay, when you get into the rift, you're going to activate Epiphany, you're going to also activate Sweeping Wind. I probably would run forwards until you see an enemy before popping those two. Then all you're going to do is start holding down Tempest Rush, wait for your convention to come round onto physical. Then you know you've got a few seconds to get yourself in position. When you get about kind of halfway through cold, you want to then click Blinding Flash, so don't let go of Tempest Rush. You then click Blinding Flash, the flash goes off, the detonation from your Tempest Rush goes off, and boom, it's a nice big explosion. Now the main problem really I see with this extreme push version of the build is that your stacks drop off. So opening doors is a problem because you have to stop Tempest Rushing to click them. Getting knocked about by enemies, some mobs have various affixes that will knock it off. You also have to stop to click pylons, changing floor can be a problem. So in theory, good map, everything going hunky-dory perfect, this is probably the best way. So on the boards I have seen Serenity with Ascension become popular. This basically gives you 4 seconds of damage immunity and also CC immunity. So that's helpful for keeping up your stacks, but it does involve learning when you need to press this and when you don't. So personally for me that's a bit too much, I'm going to stick with the Mystic Ally. So in terms of the second 108 clear that I did, and this is the casual way of playing the build, we're going to take off the blind and we're going to lose the 29% damage, but what we're going to do is we're going to take Cyclone Strike on the bar with Wall of Wind. This sucks enemies in and automatically freezes them. Now that's good because what it means is that if you do cock up with your Tempest Rush and it gets deactivated or your stacks drop for some reason, obviously the stacks still go off so you still get your explosion, but what it means is because whatever it is that's near you has been frozen, you get your 800% Seize Memento bonus. Now this basically does more damage throughout the rift, but it's less spike damage, so I tend to find that makes it a little bit easier to play. You also gain some toughness from the fact that stuff is frozen, so whilst you're building up your stacks you are applying this freeze intermittently, so again you do in theory take less damage. Another option is to take Soothing Breeze, and this will give you some heal basically whenever you hit. Now again, I personally think the utility of Wall of Wind is better, because if you do take that you're going to have to take your blind, so you're going to have to put the blind back in. So I do think Wall of Wind is a pretty good choice. As I say, from the footage you can see, arguably it's easy to play and arguably it goes almost just as far. And the absolute top clear on the boards for off-season has got the Hexing Pants and Mr. Yan in the cube instead of Lefebvre's Soliloquy. You're obviously going to need a lot of main stat to make up that 50% damage reduction. So this would give you extra spirit regen, so you probably could lose the Mystic Ally, so again it's something to play around with. And then the other option that I have seen people run is Stone Gauntlets in the cube. I personally don't like this one because you need absolutely huge amounts of main stat basically to make this worthwhile, and also it kind of ramps up, so until you get to 5 stacks of this I don't think it's as beneficial. I just think 50% flat damage reduction from Lefebvre's is easier. So in terms of Paragon points, I've put some in max spirit. I don't like running out because obviously your stacks drop off. If you run out of spirit and you stop Tempest Rushing, you will drop your stacks and it will just blow them up wherever you are. Move speed up to 25% and then dump everything into dex. Now obviously it is still a little squishy, so you saw in the first clear I did die. I do come close to dying in the second clear, so again points and vitality are no bad thing. I've just basically been trying to push it damage wise as much as I can. For offense, cooldown reduction is amazing. You then want to go for crits, and I still would put the points in attack speed to just do them last. For your defense you want all res, then life percent, armor and life regen. Utility, definitely resource cost reduction, area damage, life per hit and gold find. So as for stat priority guys, you want cooldown everywhere you can get it, so gloves, shoulders, ideally probably both rings. I haven't got it on this one, so again I could probably improve my build here. For your element of choice you want cold on braces and ideally on your amulet. Obviously you want crit hit chance and crit hit damage, again wherever you can get them. In terms of your weapons, you're going to want to get life on hit on one of them. You probably want it on an ancient one because it just gives such a high range on it. Again, percent damage, cooldown, even resource cost reductions, not a bad roll to take. You want to get Tempest Rush damage on your boots. On your helm you want either crit chance or Tempest Rush damage. And as well, if you can pick up some area damage, that will help you out a lot, particularly if you're playing the more casual version, because you're going to be releasing a lot more Tempest Rush explosions and it is just a bit easier. So yeah, So yeah, area damage on shoulders would be quite nice. To get the most out of harmony, you want as many secondary resists as possible. So what I'll do, guys, I'll put a D3 planner link to my gear, and I'll probably tweak a couple of the stats to say how I would prefer it for the gear to be rolled. So do check back, because I might update it if the build does change considerably and it does look like a particular way is better for doing it. So that's it, guys. That's pretty much all the swaps I can think of. Hopefully we've gone over all the different skills that you can do. I do think the casual way is a interesting one, and it does make it an awful lot easier. It means you can blow up your stacks, not necessarily worrying about it being on the cold rotation, because you are still making use of your Caesars. But obviously it's each to their own. Some people will want to push it as high as they can, and that generally means a kind of imbalanced build with the kind of mechanic that we talked about at the start. But obviously up to you, you can roll how you want. So that's it, guys. I hope you're enjoying Season 19. I will be back with some more Season 19 videos very soon. Catch you later. Peace.
My heart rages around like an ocean in my head, because there are so many things that I left unsaid. I can almost feel you walking in the distance, but I know that is not reality. If you are echoing around inside these parallel dimensions all alone, now I'll find you in my dreams. My heart rages around like an ocean in my head. I can almost feel you walking in the distance, but I know that is not reality. If you are echoing around inside these parallel dimensions all alone, now I'll find My heart rages around